The night began like any other award ceremony, glittering gowns, cameras flashing, and celebrities exchanging polite smiles under the golden lights of Los Angeles. But for millions watching around the world, the moment Dakota Johnson walked onto the stage became something unforgettable. She wasn't there to promote a movie, or even to accept an award. She had been asked to present a tribute, a short speech honoring the people who inspire love, resilience, and creativity. No one expected her to turn it into something deeply personal, but Dakota had always been unpredictable that way, poised, honest, and fearless in her vulnerability. She stood at the podium in a simple silver dress, her hair tucked neatly behind one ear. The room fell quiet almost immediately. Chris Martin, seated near the front, looked up from his table, his expression curious but calm. He hadn't known what she planned to say. No one had. "Love," she began softly, her voice steady but warm, "isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's quiet. It's a song that doesn't need to be heard to be felt." The crowd leaned in. Dakota smiled gently, her eyes scanning the audience. "I've been lucky enough to experience love in many forms. Love that teaches, love that breaks, love that heals. But tonight, I want to dedicate this moment to someone who taught me that love doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful." Chris's expression changed subtly. His lips parted, just a small, involuntary reaction. He didn't move, but his gaze softened. The cameras caught it. Every outlet would replay that look 1,000 times before the night was over. "Thank you," Dakota continued, her tone trembling slightly now, "for showing me what peace feels like. For teaching me that real love isn't about grand gestures, but about being seen, truly seen, even when you're at your worst." There was no name, no direct address, but everyone in the room, and everyone watching at home, knew exactly who she was speaking to. The audience erupted into applause. Chris smiled faintly, his eyes glistening, and mouthed something that looked like, "I love you." The moment was delicate, beautiful, and intimate, the kind of Hollywood magic that didn't need music or scripts. But in another part of the world, one man wasn't clapping. Jamie Dornan sat in a quiet hotel suite in London, the flickering light of the TV reflecting off his face. He hadn't planned to watch the show, but someone had sent him a clip. "You need to see this," the message read. He watched the video twice. The first time, he smiled, almost proudly. The second time, something inside him shifted. When Dakota said the words, "love that breaks, love that heals," he felt them like an echo from another lifetime. They were words he had once said to her, long ago, during the madness of 50 Shades. Back then, they had been two young actors caught in a whirlwind of attention, trying to hold on to themselves as the world blurred the lines between fiction and reality. She had once told him, "You make me believe in love that hurts and heals at the same time." And now, years later, she was saying it again, but for someone else. Jamie sat back, exhaling slowly. He wasn't angry, he wasn't jealous, but something about her words, their familiarity, their quiet truth, hit him harder than he expected. He picked up his phone, scrolled past dozens of messages from reporters and friends, and stopped at one from Amelia. It simply said, "She's happy, that's all that matters." Jamie stared at the message for a long time before setting the phone down. Outside, rain tapped gently against the window. The city felt heavy, distant. On the television, Dakota's speech continued. She ended with a line that would become instantly iconic. "To the one who taught me patience, to the one who showed me kindness, and to the one who gave me peace, this is for you." Chris rose from his seat and applauded, smiling through tears. The audience followed. The moment was perfect, cinematic, pure, radiant. But for Jamie, it was something else entirely. It was closure. As the applause faded, he whispered quietly to himself, "You found your peace, then." There was no bitterness in his tone, only a trace of melancholy, the kind that comes from realizing that some people you love are meant to teach you lessons, not stay in your life forever. He turned off the TV, sat in the darkness for a moment, and smiled faintly. The image of Dakota, radiant, confident, finally free, lingered in his mind. "Good for you," he murmured. "You finally said what you needed to say." But the world wasn't done with her words yet. Within hours, social media exploded. #Dakota speech, #Chris and Dakota, and unexpectedly, #Jamie reacted began trending worldwide. Because while Dakota had spoken to Chris, her message had reached far beyond the man she loved now. It had reached the man who once knew her best. And as the night unfolded, it became clear. That single speech wasn't just a declaration of love. It was the final chapter in a story that had started years before, one that Jamie Dornan thought was over, until she spoke those words. By the next morning, Dakota Johnson's speech was everywhere. Every entertainment outlet had clipped the moment where she looked out into the audience, voice trembling, and said, "To the one who gave me peace, this is for you." It was replayed endlessly, on television, on TikTok, in slow-motion edits with soft piano music beneath it. Chris Martin's face, his small, proud smile, his eyes shimmering with emotion, became the image of devotion. The internet called it Hollywood's purest love story. But while the world celebrated, another story was quietly unfolding, one that didn't make the headlines. In a small cafe in London, Jamie Dornan sat at a corner table with a cup of untouched coffee, scrolling through his phone. He'd seen every headline, every reaction, every side-by-side photo of Dakota and Chris. He wasn't avoiding it, he was absorbing it. A journalist's headline caught his attention. Dakota's message. A love letter to Chris, or a goodbye to her past? Jamie lingered on the words, her past. It was strange, seeing himself reduced to that. Two simple words that barely captured the years of laughter, pain, and silent understanding they had once shared. He remembered a conversation from years ago, long after the final 50 Shades movie wrapped. They'd met in a quiet restaurant, away from cameras. She'd said, "I'll always be grateful for you, Jamie. But we have to let this story end." He had nodded, even smiled. But deep down, he had never truly let go. Now, hearing her speak with such calm certainty, he realized she finally had. Later that afternoon, Jamie's longtime friend and fellow actor joined him at the cafe. "You've seen it?" the friend asked. Jamie chuckled softly. "Everyone's seen it." "She looked happy," the friend said carefully. "She did," Jamie agreed. "She looked like she finally found her place." There was a pause before the friend added, "And you?" Jamie didn't answer right away. He stared out the window at the gray sky. "I think I'm still figuring mine out." Back in Los Angeles, Dakota sat with Chris in their living room, surrounded by warm light and the faint hum of music coming from the next room, one of Chris's unfinished melodies playing softly on repeat. The night after her speech, he hadn't said much. He didn't need to. When she came off stage, he had simply wrapped her in his arms and whispered, "I heard every word." But now, as they sat in silence, he asked her the question that had been sitting on his tongue since the night before. "When you said, 'the one who taught me patience,'" he said gently, "were you talking about me?" Dakota smiled, a slow, thoughtful smile. "Partly," she said, "but not only you." Chris nodded, not surprised. He had always understood that parts of Dakota's heart existed in other times, other stories. "Jamie?" he asked quietly. She hesitated, then nodded. "He taught me the difference between love and peace. I didn't understand it then, but I do now." There was no anger in Chris's eyes, only compassion. "Then I'm glad," he said softly. "Because that's what love's supposed to do, teach you." Dakota reached for his hand. "And you," she said, her voice warm, "you taught me how to stay." It was a moment of stillness, of quiet completion, the kind that comes not from forgetting the past but from making peace with it. Later that night, Jamie received a message. It was from an unknown number, but he recognized the tone immediately. "Thank you," it read. "For everything. For believing in me before I believed in myself. I meant every word on that stage. I found my peace." I hope you found yours too. Jamie read it twice, his chest tightening. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. Then he typed a single sentence. I have now. He put the phone down and leaned back, exhaling deeply. It felt like something inside him had finally exhaled too. A weight that had lived beneath his ribs for years quietly dissolving. Across the ocean, Dakota looked at her phone as his reply appeared. She smiled faintly, placed it face down, and turned toward Chris, who was strumming his guitar softly. Everything okay? He asked. She nodded. It is now. And that was the truth. The world would continue to romanticize her words, to replay that golden moment again and again. But for Dakota, Chris, and Jamie, the meaning was far simpler. It was a moment of release. Dakota's message hadn't been a declaration of passion. It was a letter of gratitude, for the love that once burned, for the pain that taught her to grow, and for the peace she finally found. And for Jamie, it wasn't shock that filled him anymore. It was quiet acceptance, the kind that comes only when you realize the story you once lived has become someone else's lesson. Powerful message, one headline read. But for those who knew, it wasn't just powerful. It was closure. A love story that had finally learned how to end gently.